I know Japan has been marketed as a country where anyone and everyone can come and teach English, but nobody really talks about who shouldn't teach English in Japan and why. Now, don't get scared. This is not a threat. It's just me offering tips and guidelines to help you or guide you into making the right choice. My name is Upendanais Barasa. I moved to Japan to teach English from Kenya. If you're interested, subscribe. You don't want to miss it. Come on, join the bandwagon. I've lived in Japan for the past 1.5 years teaching English, and I've interacted with very many people who do not have a background in the field of education. They're not a teacher by profession. I am a teacher by profession. I majored in English literature, to be specific. So for me, I feel like this is a fitting position, or it's part of my career. However, because very many people who move to Japan, have never been to a classroom, never taught before, are just teaching for the first time, obviously it's a great opportunity. That's why it's open for everyone. However, I don't think this is a position for a particular group of people. I wouldn't say it's a no, but I think if you want to take this step, you really have to think about your current career and how it's going to be affected in the long term if you ever want to return to that career after you've moved to Japan to teach English. That being said, let's get started. Who and why? Now, if you are in a career that requires continuous growth, for example, law, medicine, engineering, architecture, nursing, those fields, leaving your country entirely, and moving to Japan might hurt that career path eventually if you are thinking of going back maybe in a few years to pursue the same career. In job markets, for example, in Africa or developing countries, they're very competitive, which means that if you take a gap for maybe 2 to 3 years, move to Japan, teach English, and now want to go back to re-enter the job market, it becomes very difficult. But if you're from first world countries like the US, America, Canada, Australia, I think there's a very good balance in terms of, the job market. People take gaps every time. If you can explain the gap, it becomes easier for you to just come back, take it from where you left. But if you're African, and I will speak from the African perspective, and people from developing nations like in the Caribbean or in some Asian countries, it becomes very difficult. Think about the amount of effort that you put into finding a job, an internship. You're willing to work for a company for free, but they will still not take you in. Can you imagine that? Now, for instance, you decide to move to Japan, spend 2 to 3 years, and you decide to go back to your country. Imagine how difficult it's going to be to even find a decent job, let alone decent, to even find a job, an internship, to even work for free. Nobody is willing to give you that opportunity. So if you want to move to Japan and your career needs continuous growth, you probably have to, reconcile with the fact that if you move here, there's a high possibility that you will have to leave your entire career and pursue education. But if you decide to pursue education, it also means that for you to progress in this field, you need to go back to school. It's such a conundrum, I understand, because in Japan, it's not like the US where if you come, you can do multiple jobs. For you to work outside the teaching field, you need to read, speak, and understand Japanese. If you can't do that, there's no place for you. Obviously, we do have some workarounds in some careers, especially international companies that would take people from different backgrounds. But because the core market is Japan and Japanese people, you will need, some basics to learn Japanese to a particular extent. Even if it's just conversational basic, you can hold a simple conversation. It will be required. But if this is something that you're not willing to do, so probably you might want to rethink your position. From my experience, to earn more money in the education field, you need to have a bachelor's degree in education. To work for an international school, big schools, or get a high-paying job, the requirements go higher. So you can't, the experience as an ALT, obviously it's good, but it won't get you to those schools because your background is not in education. So you can imagine living your law career, medicine career that you've studied hard for 5 years, move to Japan, teach English, and you really can't progress beyond teaching English because you can't work in hospitals in Japan. You can't work in law firms in Japan because you don't understand the law, you don't understand the language. And now you're a teacher, like that's the only career you're stuck in. But then again, for you to earn more money and get a stable teaching job, you do need a bachelor's degree in education, which means you have to go back to school, study, maybe get a postgraduate degree in education in order to get a decent paying job in Japan. So if you know this is you, given this advice, please rethink your decision. So when you leave the country, just know either this is it, I'm leaving law school, I'm leaving medicine, engineering to fully become a teacher, and you have to commit to the end. I know so many ALTs whose background was never in education. They've spent 5 to 10 years in Japan earning the same salary, and their bills keep going up and up and up every single year. So you can imagine you coming here, no career progression whatsoever, especially when you don't have a background in education, it becomes very difficult. The next person, who and why. If your goal is to save as much money as possible, build an empire, build something for yourself back home, Japan is not the place to make you millions, honestly. It's not the place to make you millions. The average salary is low compared to first world countries. Obviously, Japan is a first world country, but in this context, comparing it to the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, where I know a lot of experts from Africa or developing countries would move and they would make good money, especially in the US. So I know some of us, when we move to a first world country or a different country, we kind of have the same or similar expectations of people that have moved to the US. Those expectations, they really can't work for Japan because Japan is just a society on its own. For you to thrive in this country, you really have to speak, write, read, or at least understand the Japanese language, which is a very difficult language to learn, I must say. But if that's a commitment that you can make, okay, maybe Japan is the place for you. That being said, this video is very short and precise. If you think it was helpful, give it a like, leave a comment down below. Do you think this is just bluff or very important things that people should put into consideration before applying to teach English in Japan? Subscribe to the channel. See you again next time. Bye.